Okay, we're going. Good evening. It is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, and welcome to the Town of Carmel Town Board. This is a work session. We have 11 items on the agenda, and we have a special guest, keeping with trying to inform you, the taxpayer, about the budgets. Like we had Carmel School come in, we also now have Mahopac. We're going to have the superintendent, Christine Toma, give a presentation. But before that, I call this meeting to order, and if everyone would please rise and face the flag. Councilman Baranowski's leading us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask everyone, please remain standing for a second to honor the men and women in uniform serving our country around the world. And especially tonight, we would also ask you to pray for and recognize our brave men and women of law enforcement who are out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, protecting our community. Thank you.
Thank you. So like I said, Ms. Christine Tona, Superintendent, Mahopac Central School District, is here, and we're honored to have her do a presentation of their proposed 2023-2024 school budget. Superintendent?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here this evening. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to present to everyone here from the community. So we're very excited about our school budget, the proposed budget for the 23-24 school year. The process started back in the fall, where we got together with all of our administrators in the district, and we're happy to share that through consultation with all of them, we're able to include just about everything that they requested that would be a positive support for our students in the district. So just some highlights here. We're adding career pathway programs at the high school for students to begin to decide if they're interested in engineering or education. They can take a series of courses that they could ultimately put on their transcript, put on their applications for college, which hopefully will be a benefit to them as they move on from high school. We're adding additional electives at the high school and less study halls. Our ninth graders currently take a course called MHS Life, that's one semester, with a study hall in the second semester. So this will eliminate those study halls, allow our freshmen to have the opportunity to select electives from the moment they start in our high school. We're adding an additional physical education teacher at the high school to provide smaller, safer class sizes. We currently use Readers Writers Workshop, K-5, and this year we started in 6th grade at the middle school. We're expanding to grade 7 for next year. We currently do not have any library media specialists at the elementary level, so this budget provides one to be shared between Fulmer Road and Austin Road. They're in the process of opening brand new libraries that came online through our capital project, and Lakeview Elementary will be adding a library next school year, so we anticipate adding another librarian, elementary library media specialist, in the following year budget. We currently have coaches at the elementary schools, but they're shared amongst our 3 elementary schools. So we're looking to have dedicated STEAM coaches or STEM coaches at each of our elementary schools. And we're looking to add a second literacy coach that will reduce the need for professional development from outside consultants and allow us to showcase our own staff to support their colleagues as well as our students. Looking at special education and student support, we have a wonderful special education program in Mahopac. We're looking to add content area special classes at the high school. We currently cover 2 content areas. We're looking to add a 3rd. We're adding a social worker at the middle school to increase mental health supports. We're adding an 812 special class at the elementary level for our students. A board-certified behavior analyst to support the behavioral needs of our students. Currently, we contract out. We anticipate still needing to have contracted vendors to support us, but having someone full-time every day will be a major support to our staff and ultimately our students. We're looking to add a transition counselor through federal grants. That will allow our high school special ed students, as they age out of the high school, they qualify for a lot of supports in the community, and this transition counselor will help connect the students, their families, with the supports that are outside of the school district to help them be successful adults. And we currently have a unified athletics program that joins our special needs students with our typical students in basketball, and we're looking to add bowling to that offering for next year. Looking at athletics facilities and transportation, we're looking to add girls ice hockey and boys swim programs through mergers with nearby districts. We're looking to add assistant coaches for field hockey and girls volleyball because those areas have great interest. In facilities, we're looking to sand and refinish our high school gymnasium floor, do some abatement and flooring replacement projects throughout the district, and then other projects that are specific to each of our buildings. We have an amazing buildings and ground staff, maintenance staff, that includes a carpenter, plumber, electrician, all on staff. So a lot of the work that's needed in the district can be done in-house, which saves a lot of costs. We don't have to go outside for a lot of different projects. In transportation, we currently have over 100 vehicles in our fleet, and we also maintain them. We're looking to add a second bus lift to help us maintain those buses, and a second transportation dispatcher so that we have coverage from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. because the buses are running throughout the community at least during those times, if not longer. We're doing some restructuring in our administration team. Currently, we have an assistant superintendent for business, that's an interim. We are hiring a permanent person. We're changing the title to assistant superintendent for finance and operations. In special education, as of last year, we had an assistant superintendent that oversaw special education and technology and safety, and that individual left the district at the end of last year. So this year, we took on an interim director of special education. That person's going to continue for an additional year as interim, but we're adding an assistant director for special education, and then we'll have 2 administrators, 1 elementary, 1 secondary, to support our entire special education population and the staff. We're looking to add a director of technology and also eliminate a contract consultant. And a K-12 administrator will oversee and coordinate our safety, security, and compliance. We're very fortunate to have partnership through Putnam County Sheriff's Office. We have SROs at our high school and middle school. We have SPOs, special patrol officers at our elementary schools. We have the support of the Town of Carmel Police Department. We have security through Briger Security at our high school, and we contract through Putnam Northwestchester BOCES, their safety regional office, and all of those entities do a great job, and we need somebody to coordinate that and pull it all together, put everybody at the same table to have those conversations to make sure our district is as safe as possible. And then in the admin restructure, we currently have a shared assistant principal at Fulmer Road and Lakeview schools, so we're looking to add an assistant principal so each school has a dedicated assistant principal. And all of this restructuring is budget neutral. There's no additional costs. Here you could see our student enrollment as of March 31st of 3,822 students. We're projecting a slight decrease of about 46 students. That's across the district K-12. No big impact in any particular grade level. Therefore, our staffing is going to pretty much stay stable. And on this slide, you could see the average elementary class sizes currently and in the bottom projected, and the number of sections is staying the same at 76. So here's our budget in the form of a pie chart. And you can see the 2 biggest pieces of the pie are salaries and benefits, and that makes sense for a school district. We're a people business. It takes people to teach our students, support our students, drive them to and from school. So in most school districts, you'll see salary and benefits make up 75 to 80% of the entire budget. And here are the 3 components of our budget: administrative, program, and capital. And you could see our proposed budget in the middle is $137,960,937, and that is an increase of almost $5.5 million. But $4.5 million of that increase is in program, and that's where it should be. Program is the section of the budget that touches our students. It includes salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, health services, guidance, BOCES supports, athletics, extracurricular activities, and transportation costs. Administrative component is administrative salaries and benefits, related staffing, any expenses related to the Board of Education, The trustees serve as volunteers, but any cost to do the budget vote, putting on the meetings. Administrative also includes legal, auditing, insurance costs, and any BOCES, capital expenses, admin expenses, and data processing costs. The capital component includes facility maintenance and operations, transfers to capital, and debt service payments. So with any budget, we have the expenditure side, we have to balance it with the revenue side. So looking at revenue here, the biggest piece of the pie is the property tax levy at 68.7%, and state aid at 26.9%. And then there's a small blue wedge there for appropriated fund balance, and we're able to pull some money from the fund balance to be part of the revenues that balance the budget. Here's a breakdown of the state aid that we receive in Mahopac. So our state aid projection that we're using in the budget is $37,076,643. That's in the far right bottom corner. And that says total aid less pre-K. So in the second row, you can see universal pre-K. In Mahopac, we currently do not have a universal pre-kindergarten program. We are going to look to establish that for the following school year, for 24-25. We'll be taking a look at that this summer and in the fall, because part of our state aid, and it did increase from the current year to next year, over $1 million is allocated for universal pre-kindergarten. That's the only purpose we can use it for. If we don't use it, we don't. The state will not give it to us. So we want to be able to provide our students, families, the opportunity to have universal pre-kindergarten for 4-year-olds at no cost. So information will be shared with the community in the next 6 or 8 months or so. And here's the formula to determine the tax levy limit. So you've typically the tax cap limit is, everyone knows it as 2%. It's not always 2%. There are sometimes debt exclusions that come into play into this formula, and that's the case for us for this year. So our tax levy limit is at 3.71%, but the Board of Education did not want to tax the community at that level. So we are at a 2.81% tax levy increase. And there's that number again, the proposed budget of $137,960,937. That represents a 4.15% increase over the current year's budget. And we did not tax all the way up to 3.71%, so that's $836,478 that we are not expending. We are not passing that on to the community. And we were happy because we were able to take all of the needs of our administrators, ultimately our teachers and students, and put it into a budget and not need to go to that full amount of the tax levy limit. So here's a 5-year history of our school budget and tax levy history. And the second column I think is very important. That's the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. And if you look at the first 3 years, the 19-20, 20-20, 21, and 21-22 school years, the CPI was under 2%. And if you go over a couple of columns, you could see the budget percent change was on the low side. It was actually negative the first year, 2.18, and 1.65% the next 2 years. But then when you look at the current year, a year ago CPI was at 4.7%, and currently it's at 8%. And we all see that when we go to the gas station, get oil in our tanks, look at our nice egg bills, buy eggs in the supermarket. Things have increased, costs that we can't control, and that's the same in a school district. But even though CPI is 8%, our budget percent change is 4.15%. So we're trying to maintain our costs, but also recognize that some of them are going up more than we'd like them to. And for a resident in Mahopac with an assessed value home of approximately $500,000, you're looking at an annual increase in your school taxes of approximately $293. That represents about $24 a month increase. These are estimates. So we've been in contact with the town assessor's offices of here in the town of Carmel, as well as the town of Putnam Valley, and we'll get final numbers from them probably around August. Also, our Board of Education voted several months ago to increase the exemptions, the threshold for our veterans, as well as increase the income threshold for senior citizens and persons with disabilities. It was at $29,000 to qualify for an exemption of 50%. It's going up to $40,000. and they also voted to enact the exemption for our volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers to thank them for their service. So all of those factors contribute to estimates on these values for monthly and annual estimated tax increases. Should the school budget fail, ultimately, we would need to go to contingency. And in a contingent budget, we can only levy the same exact dollar amount that's currently being levied in the 22-23 school year. And if that were the case, we would have to reduce our proposed budget by $2,589,662. Automatically, we would not be able to buy anything related to equipment. So according to New York State law, equipment comes off the table in a contingent budget. And like I mentioned a few slides ago, it's a people business. Majority of the budget is made up of people that teach our students, support them, and transport them. So we would have to look at staff reductions, resulting in increased class sizes, and potential reduction of extracurricular activities and interscholastic sports. All things that we don't want to do. We want to provide our students with every possible advantage and option as they go through our school system. There are two items on the ballot next Tuesday, and the first is the budget vote, and the second is the transportation bus proposition. So, like I mentioned, we have over 100 vehicles in our fleet. We can't wait until they're all in need of replacing at one time because that would be cost prohibitive. So we have enacted several years ago a bus replacement plan, and we're looking as part of that plan to purchase 8 65-passenger buses for an estimated total of up to $1.3 million. This was on the budget ballot last year as well, and we're looking at a 12-year bus replacement process so that we can always have the safest vehicles on the road for our students. So just to recap, this budget benefits our students by expanding our commitment to STEAM, science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. We're very proud of that program. It's K-12. We'll be having dedicated STEAM coaches in our elementary schools. We have the Gateway program at the middle school, Project Lead the Way at the high school, many electives in this area of STEAM at the high school, all to benefit our students. We're looking to add a social worker at the middle school to support mental health, continue to provide our students with every opportunity that currently exists in extracurricular activities, the arts, music, athletics. We're also looking to add a library media specialist, so we have one at the elementary school, to make full use of our beautiful new libraries in the capital project, and continue our commitment to transportation safety through the Transportation Replacement Program. So Tuesday, May 16th, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Mahopac High School. If you are a resident of another school district but still in the town of Carmel, just make sure you get out and vote that day. It's very important. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we go to public comments, we have many wonderful guests here in the audience for Police Week. Chief Hoffman is here, and I said to the chief in the hallway that these are his officers, but they were
They're yours.
most of them were mine before that. But
I just inherited them. That's
yes,
all.
and I just want to tell them I'm so proud of each and every one of them, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Good evening. We are here to celebrate our people, the men and women of the Carmel Police Department. But in that celebration, most may not know, comes from a somber origin. In 1962, President Kennedy, by proclamation, determined May 15th to be National Peace Officer Memorial Day. And over the 20 years between 1962 and 1982, not much was done until 1982, where we had the first National Police Officers Memorial Service down in Washington, D.C. And what began with 100 people down in Washington, D.C. has grown into recent years to 40 to 50,000 people attending Police Week down at the services in Washington, D.C., which is just a great event. The men and women here of Carmel PD would love to join them, but we do have a town to protect. So we are very glad to be able to acknowledge and award our officers that have done great over the past 2 years. This also includes 2022. We would have liked to do this last year, but we had our last wave of COVID, and a number of us weren't available. So I'm going to read off the names for 2022, our awardees, and for the sake of time, I'll just read those names off. For 23, I'll include some of the narratives of some of the great work our officers have done, and I'll just ask that everyone hold their applause till the end, and at the end, we'll all come up and we'll be acknowledged by the board. So without further ado, the 2022 National Police Week Carmel Police Department Recognition Awards, receiving awards for excellent police duty, are Police Officer, now Detective, Brian Smith, Detective Daniel Shea, 4 times, Police Officer Vincent DeSantola. Receiving the Life Saving Award, Police Officer, now Detective Brian Smith, Police Officer Devin Sanborn, Police Officer Brian Sillery, and Sergeant Sandy Kreco. Receiving letters of commendation, Lieutenant John Dearman, 2 times, Police Officer Brian Detz, 2 times, Lieutenant, now retired, Stephen Kunz, Sergeant Stephen McCabe, Sergeant Laura Witten, Sergeant Neil Brown, Detective, now Detective Sergeant Brian Ford, Detective Daniel Shea, Police Officer Travis Lash, Police Officer Vincenzo Rocco, Police Officer Arthur Kosklowski, Police Officer, now Detective Brian Smith, and Police Officer Vincent DeSantola. Receiving letters of commendation are from our retirees. For 2022, we're retired Detective Sergeant Michael Nagel and retired Detective Joseph LaPiccolo. And to conclude for 2022, we are awarding an outside agency honorable mention to the agencies that we worked with during that year that we would like to acknowledge. The Putnam County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Enforcement Unit, the Putnam County Emergency Response Team and Hostage Negotiation Team, and the unfortunately now defunct, the Putnam County Multi-Jurisdictional Accident Reconstruction Team. So that is for 2022. Moving on to 2023. Now, I'll just go over the incidents so we can get a little background on the narrative of the great work that our folks have done. The first incident that we're going to discuss is the water rescue from the Croton Reservoir that was back in November of 2022. At approximately 12:19 in the afternoon on November 2nd, 2022, Carmel Police Dispatch received a call that a rowboat was overturned in the Croton Reservoir off of Croton Falls Road, and 3 persons were in the water yelling for help. Upon arrival, Detective Daniel Shea and Police Officer Arthur Kosklowski, under the incident command of Sergeant Laura Witten and Sergeant Sandy Kreco, and with the assistance of additional Carmel PD, Putnam County Sheriffs, and New York State Police personnel, commandeered 2 rowboats from the shore, paddled approximately a quarter mile out into the submerged boaters, and rescued them from the water and assisted them into arriving Mahopac and Mahopac Falls fireboats that arrived on scene. The men were transported to Danbury Hospital, where they survived their injuries and were subsequently released. For this incident, receiving the award for meritorious police duty and the life-saving award are Detective Daniel Shea and Police Officer Arthur Kosklowski. Receiving the award for excellent police duty, Sergeant Laura Witten and Sergeant Sandy Kreco. And receiving letters of commendation, Lieutenant Michael Bodo, Detective Brian Smith, Police Officer Benjamin Pearson, and Dispatcher Gene Bratz. Oh, congratulations to you all. Our next incident is a vehicle crash back on April 7th of 2022 on Route 301 by the West Branch Reservoir. At approximately 8:07 in the evening on April 7th, 2022, Putnam County 911 alerted CPD officers to a vehicle possibly into the water at the West Branch Reservoir on Route 301 near Gypsy Trail Road. Upon arrival, Police Officer Vincenzo Rocco, along with Putnam County Sheriff's deputies, observed the vehicle down the embankment fully engulfed in flames. Officer Rocco climbed down the embankment and assisted in extricating the driver from the burning vehicle, securing the driver to a backboard, and bringing the driver back up to street level to an awaiting EMS unit. The driver survived. So receiving the award for meritorious police duty and the life-saving award, Police Officer Vincenzo Rocco. Our next incident is a burglary investigation and arrest that was back in January of this year. At approximately 5:43 in the evening on January 5th, 2023, Putnam County 911 advised CPD of a burglary in the past in the Majestic Ridge neighborhood of Carmel. Stolen in the burglary were multiple firearms, jewelry, and cash exceeding $35,000. Detective Daniel Shea initiated an investigation that encompassed county, state, and federal law enforcement agencies and spanned 5 states throughout the Northeast. Detective Shea went above and beyond his duty throughout this investigation, which resulted in the apprehension and arrest of 7 individuals of an organized foreign burglary group, including 2 suspects responsible for this Carmel burglary and the recovery of 17 stolen firearms. Receiving the award for meritorious police duty, Detective Daniel Shea. Our next incident is a sexual assault on the Putnam Trailway back in September of 2022. At approximately 7:05 p.m. on September 10th, 2022, a caller to CPD dispatch, excuse me, reported that an assault on the Putnam County Trailway near Weber Hill Road. Following callers advised that the incident was a possible sexual assault and the suspect was fleeing the area on a bicycle. Police Officer Michelle Yeager and Police Officer, now Detective Brian Smith, coordinated efforts with additional personnel to attend to the victim and locate and take the suspect into custody. Detective Daniel Shea and now Detective Sergeant Brian Ford, conducted an investigation that developed information from witnesses, the victim, and the suspect that led to the arrest and charging the suspect with rape in the 2nd degree. Receiving awards for excellent police duty are Police Officer Michelle Yeager, Detective Brian Smith, Detective Daniel Shea, and Detective Sergeant Brian Ford. Our next incident is a missing endangered adult that was split between Mahopac and the town of Somers that was just recently back in March. At approximately 3:20 in the afternoon on 3/26/2023, CPD's K-9 unit, Police Officer Vincent DeSantola and K-9 Petro, responded to a call for assistance from the New York State Police Somers Barracks on a missing endangered adult experiencing a mental health emergency. The male was last seen near his residence in Somers near the Mahopac border. Officer DeSantola and K-9 Petro initiated a track for nearly 20 minutes over the span of a mile and located the male in the woods behind the Heritage Hills development. The male was reunited with his family and turned over to the care of EMS units on scene. Receiving the award for excellent police duty, Police Officer Vincent DeSantola and Police K-9 Petro.
That's the best award.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've given it to a
Yeah,
dog.
it's the first time. That's great.
All right. Our next incident is a narcotics investigation and arrest from just recently in April in Mahopac. In April of 2023, Police Officer Vincent DeSantola initiated an investigation in the Kia Ora neighborhood of Mahopac related to the possession and sale of illegal narcotics. Through his time-consuming and in-depth investigation, Officer DeSantola executed a search warrant that led to the arrest of 2 subjects for multiple felony charges of criminal sale of controlled substances, criminal possession of controlled substances, and multiple felony criminal possession of a weapon charges. The prosecution continues by the Putnam County District Attorney's Office. Receiving the award for excellent police duty, Police Officer Vincent DeSantola. Our next incident is a life-saving award for cardiac arrest on between Old Route 6 here in Carmel and over the border in the town of Southeast. At 12:22 in the afternoon on June 11th, 2022, Police Officer Vincenzo Rocco and Sergeant Laura Witten responded to an aided call in a vehicle reported to be on Old Route 6 in the town of Carmel. Not finding the vehicle, the officers canvassed the area, locating a female in a vehicle in cardiac arrest nearby in the town of Southeast. along with Putnam County Sheriff's Office personnel, CPD officers performed life-saving measures, CPR, rescue breathing, and a shock from an AED that helped the aided female regain a pulse and resume breathing. The female was removed to the hospital by EMS, having regained consciousness, and what I've been advised is still with us today. So, receiving the life-saving award, Police Officer Vincenzo Rocco and Sergeant Laura Witten. And moving on to our letters of commendation for 2023. Our first letter of commendation is to Administrative Assistant Lisa Chikarikis. Administrative Assistant Chikarikis is being recognized not only for her consistently high level of work in the administration of the department, but also for two specific instances where her sharp eye and her financial knowledge potentially saved the town of Carmel and CPD from significant financial loss. Assistant Chikarikis initiated an audit on an outside vendor that discovered outdated meter equipment on fuel delivery trucks that was costing the department and the town thousands of dollars in extra fuel costs. Additionally, on another department audit, she determined inter-department fuel reimbursement amounts required recalculation for fluctuation of fuel costs. In both cases, these errors were corrected, providing savings and increasing efficiency for the town and the police department. Receiving a letter of commendation, Administrative Assistant Lisa Chikarikis. Our next letter of commendation is for Dispatcher Megan Stern. I don't believe Meg's working. Of course, Meg is working. So, Dispatcher Megan Stern is being recognized for her consistently excellent service as a Carmel police dispatcher. Dispatcher Stern displays the utmost professionalism over the telephone and in person to the public and presents a calm, clear, and extremely knowledgeable voice to her officers on the other side of the radio that is vital to the mission of the Carmel Police Department. It is with the recommendation of many of our officers and the acknowledgement of the CPD command staff of her outstanding service to the department and community that she receive a letter of commendation. And for our last letter of commendation, Lieutenant John Dearman. Lieutenant John Dearman, with 20 years of service to CPD, has shown leadership throughout his career and has set the standard for others to follow. Lieutenant Dearman is the Patrol Division Commander of CPD and also the team commander of the Putnam County Emergency Response Team, a county-wide multi-agency SWAT team. Lieutenant Dearman was the interim commanding officer of CPD in 2020, leading the department through the COVID pandemic and times of civil unrest. He has performed his duties to the highest level of service to the department and the community. Receiving a letter of commendation, Lieutenant John Dearman. And that concludes our awards for 22 and 23. So, ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the Carmel Police Department.
And K-9.
Picture?
So, yeah, do they want to
All right, come on
take
up,
a
guys.
picture?
The camera shy.
What?
Maybe a little camera shy.
Should we stand up there? What do you want to do? Stand down there? You guys? Yeah, Mark?
Yeah. Actually, Mike.
Oh, we stand up here?
Yeah, I'd be better.
Wherever you guys want to go.
Yeah. Matt and Giorgio, you guys are shy? So we're just waiting for the noise to abate a little bit. Hi, Amanda, thank you. So back to the work session. If there's any resident that would like to speak, you may approach the microphone and... No? All right, so if there are no takers, we'll get on to the work session. First off, the town board, I ask you all to review the minutes from the April 19th, 2023 meeting that Ann Spofford, our town clerk, has provided to you. The first item on the agenda is Lake Secor Park District Advisory Board consider request to authorize distribution of their annual newsletter. The Park District, did a wonderful job again this year with their newsletter, and I would hope that we all agree on doing that resolution and sending that out. Our second item is Lake Secor Advisory Committee. Consider request to appoint Caitlin Parada as chairperson to the Lake Secor Park District Advisory Committee. So there is an opening for chairperson at Lake Secor Park District. Let's see, Caitlin has been 19 years. She runs the lifeguard program there at Lake Secor. There's a whole list that they gave us about all the wonderful things that she does and how she helps with the landscaping and the garbage and the waste removal. They're also asking that the chairperson receive $300 stipend to cover the costs of the operations and ensure a successful summer. So everyone received this letter from Caitlin, and it's the people on the Lake Secor board, asked that we make her chairperson. I don't know if anybody has comments about her. I don't know her.
He does have a lot of duties.
Has a lot of duties. And also, we have to consider the 5 returning lifeguards, what their pay rate will be. Lake Secor Advisory Board has asked the town board to increase it by $1, it looks like. Head lifeguard will be $21 if approved. Lifeguard will be $18.50, and new lifeguards coming in would be $16 an hour. So we can get a resolution on that. Did you get a chance to look at the millennial? Did you look at the New
I did.
England?
I did, and there's just one other item you and I need to discuss, I think, or the board and I need to discuss regarding
Yeah,
the proposal, but
that was true, those numbers, you think?
my recollection is that there was a second source for that, but I'm not 100% sure, I'm trying to verify it.
So
But the
the-
proposal is identical to the prior proposal in scope and pricing.
Before.
Yes, from
Yeah.
prior.
So Millennial, do you want to speak about that?
Which is, no, you can speak, which I believe is the same price since they've begun. They haven't raised their rates.
I think it's probably accurate,
Yeah.
certainly same as the last couple of years.
I mean, things have moved a little slowly at first, but they seem to be picking up.
Yeah, so before I was on the board, Councilman Shannell, I believe, brought this Millennium Strategies, their grant writers, for their success that he saw in Harrison. They gave us a proposal, like town council says, it mirrors the previous proposal. They tell us that they've awarded us $1,633,853 in grants. I don't know if that really is a true number, but that's what they're telling us. And so
So
if
this
anybody wants
is,
to talk about that.
Yeah, this is from May 23rd, 2023, right from the beginning, since April
Yeah,
2021.
back to 2020.
July 2020, it's a total of $1,633,853. And this is, can be available to the public if they want to look at it. There's a multitude of grants here. It's very difficult to write and submit grants and get awards for them. There's great competition, and you really have to know your information, what the town needs, what it has, and it's got to be very descriptive. So I've written grants for the town of Harrison. I work there. I know it's not easy. You don't always get all of them, and it's based on who needs the money the most. So I think they do a great job, and I suggest that we stick with them.
Okay. And like you said, this is on the agenda is posted, and
The
it's
agenda's
there for
posted,
people to
so
read all of that if
If
they
anyone
want
has
to.
questions, they can call me or call anybody on the board, and if we can't answer them, we can call Millennial. They're very transparent, and they get right back to you with any questions that you have with them. They're great to work with.
So now, our next item, actually 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are with Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., Town Engineer. The first of which is consider request to accept proposal for as-built survey services, Town of Carmel Highway Department for Viola Wright Levine subdivisions and Oak Brook subdivisions. This goes back to the work that Highway Superintendent Mike Simone asked us, going all the way back. It's like 10 years now that he's been looking to dedicate like 2 million, right? 2 miles. 2
Yeah,
miles of road and,
give or take.
It's about, yeah, it's a little over 2 miles of road that basically the developers had abandoned, and the town has kind of taken on the responsibility for maintaining it, but it's not in your CHIPS inventory, so you don't get credit for it on the state funding until it's dedicated. And being that we don't have a developer to offer for dedication, the portions that we don't have as-bills for, we need the surveys, and that's part of the process. So we
Yeah.
put it out to RFP, we got, I think, 3 proposers.
right, so we're maintaining it, we might as well get credit for it.
We have to get CHIPS money for it.
Yes.
I mean, Greg really hit it right on the nail, a nail on the head there. The 2 areas of the Julia Wright Levine subdivision, which is off Barrett Hill Road near Mexico Lane, Oak Brook subdivision, which is over on Archer Road. We distributed professional RFPs to 5 professional surveyors, 4 proposals were received, and the lowest one came in at Larry Lynn at a total of $20,000, approximately $10,000 for each of the 2 subdivisions, because they're about equal on the lengths of road. There are sufficient funds for this work, and a budget transfer would be required. So we recommend Larry Lynn.
Just for informational purposes, Larry Lynn did the Long Pond Road
Oh,
Road Improvement District dedication, which is a lot more complex, there are a lot more parcels involved. But he understood how to prepare the surveys in the form of an acquisition map that we'll need for the actual litigation that's going to commence. So he's certainly, that group is certainly experienced in doing these for these purposes, so it'll be helpful.
and we're going to need easements for the right-of-ways, and it's going to be a whole, more complicated than
Correct, and
the other one.
for drainage facilities, to the extent that those are part of the dedicated improvements, but he's familiar with it, and he's familiar with working with my office on it, so I think that'll be helpful. He also is, by a good measure, the lowest of the proposers, so.
Anybody? I'm good with that.
Good?
Just a question. If the roads are deficient and they need upgrading, where does the money for that come from?
It'll come from the highway fund, capital. Okay, capital paving, capital drainage. This isn't these are situations where there's certificates of occupancy issued all along these roads, and the developer never dedicated them. They should have been built to town standards. Highway superintendent is asking you to take them, okay, meaning that they're at least they should be to town standards, but at least to his satisfaction, in terms of construction, width, and, section. So, it'll be part of the town's inventory, so the maintenance, repair, paving, drainage, and all that will be part of your capital program every year, okay, for doing that when they're in rotation. There's not a group of homeowners that are going to be assessed for this like a road improvement district, okay?
And we can't hold the developer accountable?
The bonds were called on these many years ago. These are early 2000 subdivisions, maybe even late 90s. So you probably cannot. Either liquidated, defunct, and there's no more security that the town's holding to ensure the completion of the public improvement. That's been exhausted.
But he's been maintaining them all this time, too.
That's correct.
Already, he's been,
The maintenance is coming out of your general budget anyway.
Right,
so-
that's because there's a majority of the roads in each one of those two subdivisions that have been dedicated.
Right.
So this isn't just a road that's sitting out there by itself, it's a connector road, or it's a road in between two other, or it's the end of a road. So it's somehow or another got bastardized, if you want to use that word, and that's what happened, right? So
yeah.
the Oak Ridge subdivision, the two roads that are there, that we're looking for, are kind of out of the way, but everything else has been dedicated.
And once these roads are dedicated, it'll go into the CHIPS calculation for
You
additional
get
funding.
credit for the linear footage of the roads, and then that'll increase your funding.
Right.
And right now, you're doing it and not getting the funding, but you have to do it to keep it clear for emergency
Right,
vehicles. And part of the roads are dedicated anyway, so that's already been authorized. This is just a piece of it to get the actual process to move forward. You can't do it without the surveys.
I got it, thank you. I just want to make a note, I want to discuss this matter with the board offhand.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, later. Okay.
So number 6.
Can I go home now?
It's all good.
Number 6 is consider request to acknowledge emergency repairs and services for Carmel Water District Number 2.
So on April 7th, Infomark, the operators of Water District 2, advised the engineering department of a slight leak in the service line proximate to 1787 Route 6. That's in Carmel. Due to the location of the leak, the excavation work, which included lane closures on Route 6, work had to be performed at night. The repair was completed by Cuck Excavating on April 18th. The cause of the leak was a pinhole in the copper surface line underneath the lane of traffic in Route 6. All copper was replaced from curb to valve, and there's an invoice in the amount of $21,892.53 to make this repair.
All right. And the
The
next,
cost of repairs, Rich, I know all the prices are up. Is there a difference? Can you put a percentage on? Is it possible to do such a thing?
On how much repairs have gone up?
Yeah, have gone up
I
from,
mean,
say,
we
last
could
year,
certainly
last year?
provide information, but you have to be able to compare apples to apples, so we'd have to find two repairs that are virtually similar to be able to compare them, so it's something we can do. We know all of our prices and what we've paid over the years. There was a point in time there, that prevailing wages weren't looked at, and then they were, so, there's a whole nother level of payments that are there also, so.
Yeah, if anything was itemized, that's a difference in price, maybe you could get that to us, like hourly rate, whatever, if they charge them for fuel costs, materials that are similar, just so we have an idea. Just seems that the repairs are going up a little more. I know that some repairs take more work to fix than others,
Well, this one took the course of 2 days to repair, and it had to be on, closure of traffic at night, so you're paying extra for that. It's a fairly deep excavation in that area, so all that weighs into why this one was so high. They're not normally that high.
Right.
But
All right.
that can lead on to a whole nother discussion of, procurement policy and what we're allowed to do, or you don't have to come to the board every 5 minutes because prices have gone up, but that's another discussion for another time.
Unfortunately, emergency repairs need to be fixed right away, so.
Leaks need to be repaired. They only get worse. They don't get better,
Right.
so they don't fix themselves.
and it's wasting water.
And the water's quite expensive in Carmel Water District, too. Thank you.
So number 7 is consider request to authorize amendment to scope of services, R 2019-006, storage tank rehab, Carmel Water District Number 2 and 9. Rich?
So, as the board is aware, we're in the process of doing the tank work. Weston and Sampson was awarded the project. There was a basis of design report that was presented for the rehabilitation of tanks in Carmel Water Districts 2, 3, 8, new tanks in Carmel Water 2 and 14, and a structure replacement in Carmel Water District 9. Weston and Sampson has requested a scope amendment for additional services in Carmel Water District 9. As the board is aware or might be familiar, we rejected the original bids that went out in 2021, which Weston and Sampson had put in, the design and not construction oversight, but bid assistance. So in April 2022, we requested that Weston and Sampson provide necessary updated documents to rebid. They provided contract amendment 2 in the amount of $2,900 to revise the drawings, evaluate prospective bidders, and at that time, the costs were within the town procurement policy, and there were sufficient funds. Therefore, the document was executed, and the amendment to the contract so they can start the work was done. However, as the project is a capital project, the town board would need to provide a resolution to approve Amendment 2. Just so you know, this project has been rebid for Carmel Water District 9. The contract signing was on May 4th, and we're waiting for a schedule for them to start that work up at Terrace Drive North, right? No, I forget what it is, but over in Carmel Water 9. In Water 2, during the course of the design construction process, additional lot of scope work was identified. In this case, this is a bigger one, a complete replacement of the Lindy Drive water tank due to code issues that were discovered prior to bidding that were not identified prior to inspection, in prior inspection reports, as well as the need to increase storage volume to account for new plant development in the area. The code issue stems from the roof of the tank design being concave or a bowl-like configuration with the roof drain system running through the tank. The issue was not identified sooner as record drawings are not available for the tank. So what they want to do is prepare design, what we'd like them to do is prepare design documents for that, and also for design for pavement of the access road to Lindy Tank, which is a dirt road now, which kind of ruts out. There was a replacement of control equipment at Everett Road Tank, and support of hazardous material testing for the demolition of Everett Road Tank. It was determined that there is some asbestos in the sealant that was used on the tank. So it's not, the paint wasn't asbestos, but there is in the sealant that was used. They provided Weston & Sampson provided contract amendment 3 in the amount of $69,500 to revise the drawing, to evaluate prospective bidders, and a detailed summary of the costs is provided in the information attached. We recommend the board approve these contract amendments at this time. No, not this time, next week.
Rich, is that 6,000 to 9,000 based on an hourly rate for them to redraw or re-amend the contract?
They have to redo part of the design to get there to make sure it works. They're gonna, yes, so it's to it's not just a redrawing of an existing drawing. They have to make sure that the new tank is gonna fit there, which they will. They have to do some borings with it. There's additional work that's associated with it, so. So it's not just, you know, changing a drawing over saying, hey, put this one in, you had one there before, so.
And the Everett Road, nobody saw that kind of tank has asbestos in it before.
Well, no, you wouldn't know, yeah, you wouldn't know that there's asbestos used on the tanks at all. We actually did a test at 14, there was no asbestos used. So it's a crapshoot with it, so it's just when it was put in, so.
We
In
have
this
more of
case,
those same
we're gonna
ones?
do the testing for Lindy also, so.
Yeah. Is this the same like the one up at Kings Ridge, where there's other ones at the same year that we're going to have to?
This is an anomaly. The Lindy tank is one of the oldest tanks in the system, and like I said, it has that weird design with the stormwater running through the middle of it. It's just poor, right? Yeah, it's in good shape, it's working, but a failure of that line can contaminate the water supply, right? So we want it gone.
Yeah.
With the Hazen and Sawyer report that we did a couple of years ago, we understand what's going to go on with regards to our growth in Carmel Water District 2, and the fact that we're going to need additional capacity in there. We're going to have a bigger plant ultimately, so we'll have this extra capacity too. So we went, at Everett, we went from 300,000 to 500, and in this case, we'll go from 300,000 to 500. And that extra capacity will really help in the long run. Looking forward into the future, not just for us, but for our children and grandchildren, so to speak, so.
Thank you. Okay. So number 8 is consider request to authorize additional funding to C268 Town Water Storage Tank Rehab at Water District number 8.
So the board, you've been made apprised of this situation. I talked about it, I think, at the last meeting, but work under this contract is currently underway at the Kingsridge tank. On April 17th, it was discovered that the floor of the Kingsridge tank experienced settlement and bowing, which fractured the glass liner of the glass-lined steel tank floor. Significant corrosion on a couple of the floor panels was also observed. When the tank was originally constructed, both cathodic protection and sealant between the tank foundation and steel tank panels were not provided. Part of this upgrade that we're doing, part of the rehab that we're doing is adding cathodic protection to stop that steel from getting rotted. In this case, the work includes removal of the damaged tank components, addition of proper subgrade bedding, replacement of damaged floor components, additional rental time for the temporary pneumatic pump, pneumatic water tank, proper sealing of the tank joints. The cathodic protection was already included in the original scope. The estimated value of this work is $96,992.41. Weston and Sampson has provided an additional backup for that. The work for this includes expenses and combined bond values for water districts 1, 8, 10, and 13, as the water systems are all interconnected, and the work will impact all users in those districts. There is available funding in 1, 10, and 13 for this tank. However, Water District 8 is short approximately $33,000, and as the work was considered an emergency, a transfer of $33,000 from Carmel Water 8 can be performed. As you mentioned before, Mr. Supervisor, the Crest Road tank was put in at the same time under the same contract in 1994. There's a concern that the contractors may find a similar situation with the Crest Road tank floor. This can only be determined once the tank is drained. We've had ROVs go in there. There's no way we can tell if the floor is warped until you take the water out and walk on it and experience it. So at this time, due to lack of funding, the department recommends that the town of Carmel increase the bonds for Water District 8 in the amount of $200,000 to account for both the Kings Ridge and Crest Road tanks. That's what we're looking for. Again, that money is $200,000 in ban. It's not going to be money that we're going to have. We'll only use it if we need it. If we don't need it, it would only be about that $96,000 for the Carmel Water District 8 Kings Ridge tank. If we need it, we'll have the money then set up for the Crest Road tank in the future. If we don't need it, we don't use it, we don't get billed for it. We don't pay any additional, bonding for it over time. Mary Ann is ready to actually send things to Mr. Goodfriend if the board is okay with that. So,
Rich, the Kings Ridge tank, that's one of the sites I haven't touched. Where precisely is that? Is that up the road, the top of the hill there, off the cul-de-sac?
yes, if you
Okay.
get to the top of Prince to Kings Ridge, I think it's Prince to Prince, I think, is that how it goes? Or Prince to Kings Ridge?
Okay.
You get to the top, you make a left, and you go all the way to the cul-de-sac. And it's behind the houses, so it's in the mid, it's in like 4 backyards.
Okay, so, got it. Thank you.
But for the big trees.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of trees, but it's a whole other story.
Thank you.
So our number 9 is consider request to authorize bond resolution for C-287, Lake Mahopac Dam construction.
As the board is aware, in July of 2020, Town of Carmel is under consent order to bring Lake Mahopac into compliance with state regs. The town engaged Schnabel Engineering to develop an engineering assessment of the dam, which was completed, and the New York State DEC has accepted the conclusions and recommendations. That included lowering the classification of the dam from a high Class C to an intermediate Class B, which is huge when it comes to these engineering assessments. As defined in the compliance schedule, a permit application, bid specifications were submitted to DEC in 2023, in December of 2022, that should have been, and on March 23, the DEC granted the permit application for the proposed work. The compliance schedule has 90 days for the town to issue a notice to proceed to a contractor to perform the proposed work. In this time frame, the town would need to finalize bid documents, advertise the work, select the contractor, approve the contract, and notice to proceed. And Schnabel Engineers has provided an estimate for this work to be about $175K. Funding for this particular project has not been allocated because we didn't know what it was going to cost to get us to code. And per the county controller, there are insufficient funds for this work. The board would have to authorize additional funding through a bond resolution, and there would be an estoppel period before any awards can be approved. The controller will contact bond counsel to start the process of funding the work. We recommend that the bonding in the amount of $300,000 be requested to ensure that there are sufficient funds to perform work. As you know, some things go crazy. Again, it goes back to there's an estimated cost of $175. If it comes in lower than that, when the bids come back, we have a ban for 300, we're only gonna spend money on what it costs us to do it. This is just covering that just in case. So that 300,000 it's a number on paper, it's not a number unless we spend it. And Schnabel, we had requested also from the state 120-day extension to issue the notice to proceed, and the New York State DEC was given that request on April 11th, and they have provided that extension. So we have an extension for this work, so we're kind of covered. Concurrently, Schnabel is going to be developing, there's another memo coming up right after this one, developing the plans and specs. I'm going to ask the board for us to be able to go out and put this out to bid once they're finalized. We'll have, after the estoppel period and public hearings and everything, that should be around August 5th, we'd be able to put it out and meet the state's criteria for this work to be completed. We may get into a point where we can't do the work because of the season it's being done in. We might have to ask the state for another extension, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Right now, this is what we want to do, or this is what needs to be done also for the order of consent.
Okay, so that pretty much covered the next one just on its own.
That is true. Let me get to that one. I
Right?
apologize.
No, but that's good. So you're requesting that we allow you to go out to bid, so we'll do a resolution
Perfect.
for that.
Rich, I'm not gonna ask you again to explain to me how that structure's considered a dam, but I'll let that go. I don't wanna bore these guys to
It's
death
holding the
again.
water back.
Yeah.
It's holding the water back.
That makes it a dam, right? No?
No, District 2. Anyway,
Really?
thank you.
DEC
Yeah, that's,
Thank you for tolerating.
as an impoundment.
I don't have a problem with it.
Now you're impounded.
Right.
There you go.
I don't know, Carl
CPAs,
explained,
Rich, we ask these kinds of questions.
Carl explained it all to us the other day, right? Right, Rich?
I'm sorry, what's
Carl
that?
from Weston explained
He
all
did.
this stuff in detail to us.
I mean, Kroger Falls is a dam, you know, it's big, it's got a lot of concrete, you know.
It's a Class C high hazard dam, so that's the difference. It's,
They were once classified the same very recently.
As Lake Mahopac.
It's been downgraded.
They came down or we came down?
Well, the state classifies it, and it was a C high hazard, but part of the process was reclassifying it. Is it a B?
It's a B now.
I apologize. I was trying to find my next memo and I can't find it. DEP, yes.
Is Mahopac a Class B hazard?
It is now. It was a Class C, so it was it was a higher class dam than it was.
You want,
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have it. I thought I had it.
think about that for a second.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Kroger Falls would be the same hazard.
Yeah, and that's crazy too, that the dam goes A, B, C, C being the worst.
Right, A being the best. We could talk offline on that. That's not a problem.
So number
I'll talk all
11,
day about it.
number 11 is consider request to authorize additional funding, Town of Carmel Water District Number 2 for steel tank rehab.
So this goes back to, what I kind of mentioned before with the scope change for Weston and Sampson. Preliminary basis of design report developed by Weston and Sampson was given to the board. It identified rehabilitation of the tanks in Water Districts 2, Hillcrest and Lindy, 3-8, Kings Ridge and Crest, new tanks in 2, Everett and 14, and the replacement of the structure in 9. During the course of the design and construction process, an additional work in Carmel Water 2 has been identified. Complete replacement of the tank, which I talked about earlier, due to the stormwater pipe going in the middle, and increasing it to a 500,000-gallon tank to prepare design documents, replacement of control equipment, and support hazardous material testing for the demolition of the tank. Weston and Sampson has put this cost of the work at $700,000. They provided that. So we're asking, there are insufficient funds in the existing bonding for this. We're asking that the board allow that bond to be increased to get the new tank in there. So
What are we bonded at before? What was the bond amount?
we were probably I don't know off the top of my head, but we were bonding at probably about $300,000, $400,000 for the rehab itself, because there's all the associated pneumatic tanks, putting in the cathodic protection, and doing all that other work associated with it. So I think it was at that number. I'd have to double check. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. I can get you that, though.
What was originally the scope of work consist of? That now?
That's what I just said. So, refinishing the inside, doing cathodic protection, putting in a mixer, putting in some safeties, kind of like what we are doing at Water District 8,
Right.
at Kings Ridge, and what we're doing at Crest, what we did at Water District 3 already, which is completed. Everett Road was a complete abandonment, though that tank is still up and in use. That was a completely new tank next to the existing tank.
Right.
So the idea was what we're doing in Water District 8, what we did at Water District 3 was going to be the same for the Lindy Road tank and for the ShopRite tank. We are still doing the same for the ShopRite tank. That's a fairly new tank. It's not that old. And so we're going to be able to do a rehab, bring it up to code. In this case, we're going to ask for a new tank, the 500,000 gallon tank. So it's a completely different, scope of work moving forward,
And a bigger tank?
and a bigger tank.
Okay.
All right, so if there's no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So comment-wise, we are doing a cleanup in downtown Mahopac on 6N, Saturday, 7:30. Anybody wants to participate, we'll be working with the Chamber of Commerce doing that. Also on Saturday at 9 o'clock a.m., from 9 to 12, over on Mud Pond Road, right across here from the town hall, we're going to have our e-waste drop-off. So there's a whole list on our website of all the items you can drop off, and I know that lithium batteries is a no-no, so that's the one thing that I keep hearing them say, no lithium batteries. So that's e-waste Saturday and the cleanup Saturday. The 16th is a community planning workshop to talk about improvements to the downtown. We're trying to get money from Municipal Transportation Council of New York State. They give money for complete streets and multimodal, which is more bicycle lanes and more walking. And so if anybody wants, there is, on our website, there's that QR code. It's at 5 o'clock. It's a Zoom. It would be really good to talk about the projects. The county of Putnam is proposing a couple of pedestrian projects, and I was hoping to do something in the downtown about parking and access to the bike path. NYSEG is doing a pop-up here at Town Hall on Friday, May 19th, from 10 to 2. NYSEG is going to have customer service people here that if you want to come with your bill and speak to them in person, you can, Friday, May 19th, 10 to 2, meet with a NYSEG rep. Medication take back on the 22nd of May from 12 to 4 here at Town Hall. Syringes, sharps, and that are not accepted. And there will be free Narcan kit and training available. That is on the 22nd. I kept the poster from this morning. Our congressman, who is just tremendous, Michael Lawler, he did a press conference. There's 15 communities that he chose to give his nod on money. Most of it's for PFOAs and different things. We put in for $2.8 million for Swan Cove. He approved that, put it through. It'll help us with completing that project. And as the board said last week, I didn't talk about phasing. We're going to phase this whole thing in if anybody wants to talk about that. But $2.8 million is going to help us tremendously to complete Swan Cove, and it won't be on the backs of our residents to complete that project. Anybody else have things? I think I took up more than my share of time.
Just one thing, it's National Nurses Week.
Oh,
great.
I wanted to just thank all of the nurses in the community, not just for the incredible work, obviously during COVID, but of course, every day. So thank you to the nurses and, of course, all of our frontline medical personnel. And of course, as you guys know, my wife is an ICU nurse, and I hope she's watching.
Oh, I hope so, too. Brownie points. So we're going to be adjourning, but first going into executive session. We have Town Engineer Richard Franzetti to talk about AAA carding contractual. I have some personnel updates with also about our water WWTP, wastewater treatment plant. And I've asked our town attorney to update us on some litigation items. So if I can get a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Go into executive session.
Going into executive session.
Motion, that's it.
Yeah. Whatever,